There's a lot of hype coming in for Wemby. Will he live up to it? And Vegas is...
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Zach Aguilar, the voice of Tanjiro Kamado, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. I am glad to have you back. Hope everybody's having a great, work day, and we're going to get you through it right here on Locked On Spurs. So what are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at Wemby. I know, shocker, right? Does the day end in Y? Well, it's probably going to be about Wemby. We're going to be asking, can he just basically live up to that hype in year one? We're going to be discussing that and much, much more, including Vegas. Yeah, Vegas is back at it again. We're going to get somebody who's very close to the action, close to those betting lines, close to all that Las Vegas mumbo jumbo. Should the Spurs fans or you or just anybody bet the over-under on a few projections, not just the Spurs standing, but also on Wemby's numbers? We're going to talk about that and more. But hey, I want to talk to you more about Locked On Podcast Network. You got to subscribe everywhere you can. Google Play, YouTube, Ken's 5 Plus app, Locked On Spurs YouTube. The list goes on and on. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Your daily Spurs podcast. You guys are the everydayers. So I want to talk to you about Wemby and the hype. So it's a lot of hype surrounding him. And there's a difference between setting the bar high and then there's Wembanyama. And he's at this high right now. And it's not just the Spurs fans that are anxious for him to arrive. It's the Spurs themselves. It's the city economically. It's the NBA itself. It's, he's probably going to be the next poster child. There's a lot of hype surrounding him. And the problem is, or what could be a knock on him if he doesn't live up to that hype. What if he doesn't make an all-star game in year one or year two? What if he doesn't become all NBA first or even second team? There's a lot of hype surrounding him. And I, for one, believe that he will get close to the hype. I think you're going to have patience with him because we're forgetting one thing. He's a 19-year-old kid. He's not ready-made. He hasn't even filled into his body, even though he's 7'4" or 5", whatever the day it is they list him at. But he still has growing to do physically, mentally, maturity, and on the court. So that's why he's with the Spurs, the best organization he could possibly have landed with, and he'll be doing that shortly. Just a few days, he'll be officially a Spur. So there's a lot of fans that are loving that he is going to be a dominant player, but I think he'll get there eventually. You may even start seeing that, in my opinion, towards the end of year one. We're going to bring in our guest in just a few seconds. He is Brandon Medina. If that name sounds familiar to you, it should, because he is a former San Antonio sports star, host of the Fantasy Gods. And guess what? The Fantasy Gods, they're back. Brandon Medina is back. He's going to talk to you about that and much more right here on Locked On Spurs. But we're just going to bring him in. He is Brandon Medina. Brandon,
my man,
Locked On Spurs.
The best duo since Robinson and Duncan, Jeff Garcia and Brandon Medina, baby. We are back on attack. I'm in Port Aransas, Texas. I have a rule, Jeff, that if I drink more than 3 drinks, I shouldn't do anything professional. I'm breaking that rule for you, sir.
You're breaking it. Okay, well, you may need it in a while when we talk about Vegas.
It's a lot. Yeah, I know.
You may be like, let me take one for this shot and let me take this for this projection and whatnot.
My wallet is ready, Jeff. I'm ready to talk about some betting, baby.
By the way, we're going to get to that in a few seconds, but I affectionately say this. When it comes to Vegas and odds and betting money, he is a self-proclaimed degenerate when it comes to that. Your words, Brendan.
Very true. I won about $400 on this year's finals. Nice. I've been playing a lot of PrizePicks and prop betting and all that stuff, and so this year's finals was a fun time for bettors out there. And I think, like we talked about before the show going into this one, we're talking a lot of Wemby, talking a lot of projections, for him as a player and this team as a whole. I'm a season ticket holder for the Spurs, so I'll be there to watch all of my money either burst in flames or come right back to daddy. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and by the way, again, the Fantasy Gods are back. That show is coming back to YouTube.
Yep.
Brandon's going to talk to you about that in just a few minutes. But let's dive into our first topic, and that is Wemby living up to the hype. As I said in the intro, the Wemby bar is here. I mean, it's up here. It's beyond, okay, even higher than that. It's a lot of hype coming in for an unproven NBA commodity.
Correct.
Do you think he will live up to the hype in just year one, his rookie season?
I do. I think this guy is definitely going to be a force, not only because of the skill, but because of the height, because of the tenacity, the athleticism. You're seeing him do between the leg dunks, and he's 7'4", 7'5". I mean, it's ridiculous. You've never seen it. You're seeing blocks from the paint out to the three-point line. It's hard for me to believe that he won't have an absolute great year as a rookie. Now, will he be as dominant as he ever be? Probably not, but I think expect good things. I wouldn't say expect incredible things, but expect very good, very great things. I do think he will be exactly what we're building him as far as being one of the best to play the game of this generation, but let him get there, right? Luka didn't start putting up 35 points out the gate his first year, nor did, LeBron or Steph or any of those. So let him, build up to it, but I do think he will be exactly what we're building him as.
This reminds me of, well, everybody should know this. I'm a nerd. I mean, look at the t-shirt I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing Vegeta's logo when he turned evil.
Fire.
But I got to tell you something, though. This reminds me of Batman Year One. This reminds me of that. So Batman, Bruce Wayne, said, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get the best training. I'm going to come in ready to go. I'm going to put on this costume, Spurs uniform, and I'm going to just wreck shop. But guess what? He stumbled along the way. He wasn't peak Bruce Wayne, Batman, as he got later into his life. And I think that's where you're going to see Wembanyama. He's going to be Batman Year One. He's going to hit those walls. He's going to stumble. He's going to come out of fights, or in this case, games, and saying, hey, I should work on this. Just like Batman did. He came out of brawls, just busted up in year one. He wasn't peak yet. But the thing is, the potential is there, Brandon. I see it. You see it. The NBA world sees it. Do you think if he comes anything short in year one of living up to hype, people may start already casting aspersions his way?
I mean, it's to be expected. It comes with the hype, right? It comes with it. When LeBron goes to the finals and gets swept in 2007, literally just 3 years after he's drafted, 4 years after he's drafted. I mean, we're talking about, is he really all what we think he was? Of course he is. I mean, look at Wembanyama. Look at what he's able to provide this team, this squad. There will be some shortcomings throughout, the years, and that could be, knock on wood, injuries, right? We saw it with Chet, with somebody who was close to that height. We've seen it before. That could be, just maybe getting used to the game. But you see the Euro game and the NBA game, they're starting to kind of match coincidingly, and so I do think he will be able to fit right in pretty immediately. But also, Jeff Garcia, I mean, I always tell you, brother, you're the best in the business. Who's making Batman Year One references with the San Antonio Spurs? I don't know anybody who's doing it.
Yeah.
Who else is doing it?
I'm probably the only one in San Antonio doing it.
You know what I mean? Who's doing it? So, but yeah, I do think Wembanyama is going to be a very special force to be reckoned with. But like all rookies, he's going to have his shortcomings. But who else would you rather be taught by but then, Tim Duncan on the sidelines with Parker and with Ginobili wanting to come back and help out. And then you have Greg Popovich. I mean, the sky is the absolute limit, and even past that. We're talking about an absolute rocket ship for this guy if he can put it all together.
He is Brandon Medina. He is with the Fantasy Gods, making its return to YouTube on the platform YouTube. Make sure to follow Brandon on Twitter, right there on your screen at Big Poppy Brandon M.
Yes, sir.
Do that right now. But we're talking about Wembanyama, and if he'll live up to the hype in just year one. I believe he'll get close to that, Brandon, towards the end of year one. I think you're gonna have to deal with the Spurs load management. It's coming. It's coming like a rocket ship. And guess what? He may not even play in the summer league. Maybe he plays a game in the Sacramento League or
that was my initial question too. You're right. I was thinking the same thing. Is he going to get his feet wet with the game a little bit before we see him? It might be that actual first regular season game.
Yeah. It may be that. So he probably won't click until after the All-Star break. I think that's when it'll click for him. And he'll say, okay, I think I get this. He's going to realize that the NBA is a lot easier than playing in the international court. I mean, Doncic has said it. Giannis has said it, that coming from the EuroLeague Europe system into the NBA is 180. It's a lot easier. You're allowed to hand check and play illegal defense overseas, Brendan. Remember those days?
Come
Remember
on
those
now.
days?
That's that Southwest side basketball right there, baby. Those are the fun times.
Those are fun times. But he's coming to the NBA now. So I think the fact that he has the skill set to make his learning curve a lot shorter, and you'll probably see that towards the end of his rookie season. Hey, we're not done talking about this conversation. When we get back with Brandon, we're going to continue talking about Wembanyama. Shocker, right? Shocker. Wembanyama, Wemby talk, and much, much more, including Brandon's favorite topic, and that is all things Vegas and look at him. He's getting his hands ready, getting those money hands ready to go.
Come on.
Right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, but I want to talk to you about Game Time. You got to go to gametime.co right now. Look, buying tickets to your favorite events, whether it be sports, theater, just anything. Pick something you want to go see, whether it be that concert as well. It even shouldn't be that stressful. Look, Game Time is fast. It's the easiest way to buy tickets to anything you want to go to. So they got these killer deals, last-minute deals. They got images of the seats, of the views that you're going to see at the event you're going to go to. Look, stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun. They have a low price guarantee, even event cancellation and job loss protection. They got your back. You want to go to gametime.co. Tickets are sent directly straight to your phones. You don't have to be fumbling through emails. You just get it right then and there. Download the Game Time app right now. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and then redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Brandon Medina. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Big Poppy Brandon. And right there on your screen, the fantasy gods are back. He's anxious to tell you how you can check it out. It's mighty return. It's rising from the ashes like a phoenix.
Yes, it is. All of the Greek mythology references that you can think of, that's exactly what it feels like. Me and my boy Michael Jimenez finally getting to do it, run it back one more time and keep it going. The Fantasy Guys was a huge show that we did with ESPN San Antonio. Had a lot of fun times. We had listeners. We had people participating in fantasy football leagues that might be happening again soon, but we give the best advice for sleepers, people to avoid, people to take, and we do a lot of betting as far as that DraftKings, PrizePicks, Underdog, fantasy betting, all those betting sites where you can look at, are we taking this many catches or this many yards or this many fantasy points? And so we helped a lot of people win a lot of money, and we helped a lot of people win a lot of leagues and a lot of games. So it's going to be a fun time. That's going to be coming August 6th. So we're really, really excited for that one.
Exactly. And he'll brag about that in just a few more minutes as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, but I want to remind everybody the Locked On NBA mock draft special is here. It's bigger than ever. You can follow along the entire first round in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience coming soon on just basically only that Locked On can deliver. So all episodes are available right now on Locked On Big Board on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. All right, so we're talking about Wembanyama living up to year one expectations. Would you be shocked if he's ahead of the curve before the All-Star break?
Not at all. Not whatsoever. I think he's talked about it in his interviews that he thinks his game's going to transfer over pretty easily because of the way the Euro game is played. I think Popovich is a perfect coach to coach him. I think the team that we have put around him is really well equipped to deal with a player like that, simply because you have your shooters, but it's a very defensive team. We're going to be a very lengthy team, which we haven't heard in a long time. Right? We've always been the small team, playing Keldon at the 4 or the 5 sometimes, playing Sohan at the 4 or 5, and so now you're going to have a 7-5 player. You're going to have shooters, guards, and wings all around him. I really think this is going to be a special moment for the Spurs organization and fans, and I think if he's ahead of the curve before the All-Star break, do not be surprised, but I'm saying it now. Jeff's already said it. Expect it maybe after the All-Star break. Let's give him a chance, but the expectation, I think, from novice fans or people who maybe are just getting back into the Spurs after winning the lottery would be that he absolutely has an influence and an impact right off the bat.
So it kind of transitions right into our next segment in a while, but I think it lends more to the conversation right now. So we were going to talk about the Vegas projections in a few minutes, but let's talk about one Vegas projection right now, and that is Wemby's points per game average. Right now, Vegas is projecting Wemby to average 17 points per game. In my opinion, I think that's way too low. I don't think he will finish year one averaging 17 a game. I think he might be hovering around 20. I think, as mentioned, the game translates easier for Euro players. I cannot see anybody his height with his skill set in the NBA to slow him down offensively. He's taking one-legged three-point Dirk-like shots and making them from the three line, Brandon.
From the three line, yeah. And then also, I mean, go look on YouTube, TikTok, whatever. This dude was giving Rudy Gobert the business at 16. And Rudy Gobert is a former, two-time Defensive Player of the Year? I mean, we're talking about a guy at 16 that was already putting it on, a legitimate player in the NBA, and now that he's already grown a little bit, he's grown into the Euro game, he's ready to play for the Spurs and ready to play for the NBA, and I think it's the sky is the limit. We keep saying it, but you cannot stress it enough. When you're doing that at 16, what are you going to be doing at 22, 23, 24 once you've already matured into that body and that frame? So I'm taking the over by a mile, truly.
Yeah, I'm taking the over too. I don't see him finishing year one 17 points per game. Now, Vegas did hit other points that I think are spot on, about 2.5 blocks per game. I think that's what they average out. I think that's about right.
Well, I will say this, though, Jeff. I will say this. Me and you talk about, is he going to be a star? Is he going to be exactly what was billed as, right? Let me just tell you the past 4 players who have gone over that 17 mark in Rookie of the Year standings, right? Who have won Rookie of the Year. Paolo Banchero last year, who's incredible, right? Luka, Ja Morant, Karl Anthony Towns. Those are the last 4 to go over 17. So if he's anything like that, we're talking about a legitimate all-star off the bat. Those 4 names.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the potential is there for him to meet the hype, if not exceed it next season. I think he'll maybe get some backlash if he doesn't average monster numbers. I think people are expecting him to average, 20 a game and 13, 15 rebounds per game and 3.5 to 4 blocks. I think that's what they're expecting out of year one.
You got to be realistic as well. Right. Yeah, you got to be realistic.
Well, because I think the hype machine got to him. Yeah. I think, well, not to him, but like the league, the fans. The hype machine has been in full gear since he was not even declared for the NBA draft at all.
Yep.
So I think anything short than that is going to, in people looking from the outside in, say, oh, well, he didn't live up to the hype. Look, what is this? 17 points per game for somebody 7'5" and this all-world generational, talent. I think they may have to pump their brakes if they get to that point, Brandon.
I agree. You do got to be realistic, and you got to understand that this is the NBA landscape as a whole has changed dramatically with the way the game's played. Right. On paper, his game matches this new NBA game perfectly well, but we haven't. I mean, really, what's the last big man besides, of course, Joker right now that we just saw win an NBA championship? Besides him and Embiid, there's not many big men in the league that are absolutely dominant. Like as far as 1A, your go-to people to go get go put in the buckets. And so you got to be realistic. But if he could even put himself in that conversation of the names that we mentioned for Rookie of the Year, right? If we can put him in the conversations of the Karl Anthony Towns and Ja Morants and the Luka Doncic's and Paolo Bancheros, like out the gate year one, we're in for a really, really fun ride because they're also, don't forget, the hype train maybe wasn't as hype, but Keldon Johnson's an Olympian. Like, we have an Olympian with us, right? We have Jeremy Sohan, who's an absolutely defensive stopper. Devin Vassell, who probably should have won Most Improved. There's a lot of players and potential on this team where if you add in somebody like that who is a budding all-star or an all-star out the gate, this could be a dangerous squad to definitely wreck shop around the Western Conference for years to come.
I've said it before on Locked On Spurs. I'll say it again. I don't think the Spurs record last season really reflected who they could have been.
No, because there's a lot of load management. There's a lot of quote unquote tanking, right? Yeah. There's a lot of that, and it works. I mean, say what you want, but it worked. And so here we are now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've always been of the opinion that this team is not reflective of its record last season. So I think you toss in a full season of NBA minutes, not G League minutes whatsoever, and you threw them to the fire. They took a lot of lumps. They're taking in a lot of lessons into next season. Now you throw in a Wembanyama. I mean, forget about it. The rebuild goes from here to here, that quick.
And we're not even talking free agency. We're not even talking free agency, Jeff.
No. I got to save that for another episode of Locked On Spurs. I got to spread this out till Wemby gets here.
100%. But I'm saying what we're talking about is the Wemby effect might be real. Keldon has been real. Devin Vassell's been real. Jeremy Sohan has been real. And also, like we just said, that record didn't really reflect what this team probably could have done. And so with that, if you even add in one more piece, which again, I'll let the next person talk about, whoever that next guest is. But if you add the Chris Pauls, the Van Vliets, the Al Horfords, the whoever of the world, right? You add those pieces, I mean, that's at least buying you 2, 3, 4 wins here and there, if not more. And so this team, I don't know what the odds are. I think we're going to get into them here soon. But I think I'm taking a lot of Spurs overs this year, gentlemen. Right. I'm just telling you.
I'm going to think of a perfect segue when we get back. We're going to talk about what Vegas is projecting for the Spurs to finish among the NBA, just as a whole. Where will they finish? But we're going to get the different take on it. Because Brandon is close to an expert. He's probably one of the gurus in San Antonio when it comes to Vegas odds and everything. His show is called The Fantasy Gods. That should tell you a lot already right there, his expertise. But make sure to follow him on Twitter. You see his Twitter handle on the screen right now. It is at Big Poppy Brandon M. You want to go and follow him right now. But I want to talk to you about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Look, it's a local business. It's supporting the community out in San Antonio. If you need a caffeine fix, you need to go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee right now. They got it all. They got dairy alternatives. They got lattes. They got just your basic coffee. They have the Red Bull Lightning infused drinks. By the way, one of those flavors is called the Alien. Yeah, shocker, right? The Wemby effect is in full effect right now in San Antonio. It's a mixture of kiwi, red apple, and Red Bull. It'll get you going throughout your day. Another drink I recommend is the OG OJ. I was honored. They let me name it. Orange Julius. It's back in San Antonio only at Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. So get your nostalgia vibes going at Muslinger's. Over 300 5-star reviews, cannot be wrong. They're open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're located at 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive out in San Antonio. You can find them on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. I mean, pick a platform. They are there everywhere at Muslinger STX. Life is too short for bland coffee. It's going to bring our guest back right here. He is Brandon Medina with the Fantasy Gods. They are back, everybody. The Gods are back, and they're going to be bringing the heat. But before he talks more about that, let's talk about Vegas. Brandon, your favorite topic. You like to make money. Help Spurs fans win money. Help Spurs fans right now win some money.
I'm ready. I'm ready, brother. I'm ready.
Right.
I think I am absolutely taking first and foremost before we get into anything else. We already talked about the odds about the what Vegas thinks Wemby will be scoring. If it's 17 or 17 and a half, take the over. That's just 18 points a game. We can do that. That's no problem. When you think about just the type of player he is, the type of player he could be, I think me and Jeff are probably on the same page, thinking that he'd probably be averaging closer to 20, if not at least 19. Right. So take that over out the gate, Spurs fans. Let's make sure. I'm not saying bet the house, but bet a water bill. You know what I mean? Bet something else that maybe you could play with.
I was going to say that. I'm going to bet a cable bill. I think that's what it is for me. But the big one is, I believe it was Bovada put out their odds for just where were teams place next year. Not necessarily their record, just where would they rank. So the Spurs, Brandon, brace yourself. Bovada's projecting them to finish with the 7th worst record in the NBA. I think they're full of it. I think it's going to be a lot better than that. Not 7th place, but help Spurs fans make money. Bet the over, bet the under.
So last year, 7th place was the Pacers, right? And so you had overall, and then you had the Wizards, you had the Magic, the Trailblazers. All of these teams, I think the Spurs will be better than overall. And so with that, The last year's last 7 was, of course, the Spurs, the Pistons, the Rockets, the Hornets, and the other 4 that I mentioned. I think we can absolutely be there. Now, where it gets tricky is you go into Utah Jazz, Dallas Mavericks, Chicago Bulls territory. That's where you start getting tricky of like, were those kind of fluke seasons that maybe they were off? Is that the type of squad we're going to be expecting? Dallas has made some rumors and innuendo about LeBron possibly coming with Kyrie trying to recruit. So we'll see what Dallas does. I do think they'll be higher than 7th. And so with that, I would definitely bet against that, especially if you're betting with Bovada. I would take the Spurs to finish for sure outside of those bottom 7. I think, if anything, if it's bottom 8, guess what? You're still winning money. But I do think they're better than that bottom 7.
Right, exactly. And there are the factors, too, that are going into this is that you got the Memphis Grizzlies situation. You don't know what's going to happen to John Morant. Will he be out for a significant time? If he falls, if he is suspended for a lengthy time, Grizzlies could fall down in the standings, raising the Spurs rankings a little higher. You also got to worry about, Kyrie Irving and Dallas and Luka. Is he going to be a problem? Is he going to be a headache? Is he going to demand a trade? Is that going to disrupt chemistry? You also got to look at this too. Again, the Wemby effect, just him. Will he be enough to push the Spurs out of the bottom 7 and just little by little, maybe the 9th worst record? Who knows?
Right. I also think that the fans as a whole are going to be a lot more excited this season than last season, right? So with that fan effect is very important when it comes to down to the wire games, which the Spurs had plenty of, right? And so with that, you have the Wemby effect, the fan effect. There's more season ticket holders than there have been in years, so expect AT&T to be rocking and rolling. And so with that, I think the Wemby effect is definitely going to take action, and I think at least bottom 8.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing too. Obviously, these numbers are fluid. They'll probably revive if the Spurs, make a deal. And if they do make a deal for one of those free agents that Brandon talked about a little while ago, your Van Fleets, your Chris Pauls, what have you, that could really, really push the Spurs record higher. I think when it comes down to it, Brendan, I believe that the Spurs will definitely finish more than, well, at least a better record than 7th worst. And I think Wemby vaults them out of that bottom tier again after the All-Star break. I think that's where you see them just kind of propel a bit.
Agreed. I think that definitely is the perfect time to do that.
Yeah, exactly. He is Brandon Medina. He is with the Fantasy Guys. They are back, everybody. You talked about it a little while ago. How is it back? Where are y'all guys are going to be showing your shows and everything? We're excited here at Locked On Spurs. Talk to us. What's going on?
Yeah, man. Our boy Michael Jimenez has the Acquired Tastes Network that he's doing, and I think I was looking forward to being a part of it. He reached out. We want to do the Fantasy Gods again. It was going to be a fun time. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and also LinkedIn, I believe, which is different for most shows, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that is different,
and so with us, we're going to the professional spectrum, going to the sports spectrum. It's going to be a fun time, but fantasy football, we'll probably let it go into fantasy basketball and betting and all that good stuff, so definitely check us out. Follow me, follow Michael Jimenez. August 6th is the first show, and then we'll keep it rolling throughout. But like I said last time, man, when we were on ESPN San Antonio, we won a lot of money in a lot of leagues for people, and we love taking calls, and this only works with great people like Michael, great people like yourself, and great people like the fans of Sports Talk Radio.
He is Brandon Medina. Follow him on Twitter at Big Poppy Brandon M. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Probably more Wemby talk tomorrow. Nobody should be surprised that.
And the day after that. And the day after that.
And the day after that. And the day after that. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. So, yeah, probably more Wemby talk tomorrow. But for Brandon Medina, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.